be honest with you, Kerry, I actually thought we were just going on date night, so I found it quite weird that we're sharing the room with 1,500 people. But I mean, we don't get out much because our kids are so small and young, so this is completely unexpected. But it's nice to share date night with all of you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for bringing me on this very special date night.
From the balcony of Buckingham Palace to a half-empty theater in Utah pushing a documentary about cookies, that is not satire. That is not a meme. That is the uncomfortable contrast now defining the public reality of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Once positioned at the very center of the most powerful monarchy on Earth, Harry and Meghan now find themselves promoting a small-scale documentary at the Sundance Film Festival that reportedly struggled to fill seats. Breaking reports from inside the festival confirm that Cookie Queens, a film centered on Girl Scouts selling cookies, failed to generate the turnout many expected. For critics, it was a flop. For royal watchers, it symbolized something much deeper, a dramatic collapse in relevance. This was not just a slow news day or a rough screening. It was a moment that crystallized what many had been quietly saying for months. The Sussex brand is no longer ascending. It is slipping, visibly and publicly. The palace doors at Balmoral are firmly shut, and now even Hollywood's lights appear to be dimming. This is not about one documentary. It is about what that empty theater represents. When Harry and Meghan left the United Kingdom, they promised a bold new chapter. They spoke of freedom, creativity, impact, and meaningful storytelling. The public was told to expect world-class documentaries on climate change, mental health, humanitarian crises, and global leadership. Many believed they would become the media equivalents of the Obamas. Dignified, influential, and culturally powerful. Fast forward to 2024, and the contrast is stark. Instead of commanding international attention with prestige projects, the couple appeared in Utah promoting Cookie Queens, a film following 4 Girl Scouts navigating the business of cookie sales. The grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, a man who once represented the crown on military inspections and state visits, traveled across the Atlantic to promote a project critics openly described as trivial. One industry commentator summed it up bluntly. Curiosity alone should have filled the room. A prince showing up should have guaranteed a packed screening. But it didn't. Despite the headlines, despite their presence, the theater reportedly remained partially empty. In Hollywood, there is no clearer signal than that. Empty seats don't whisper, they scream. For studios like Netflix, Disney, and Amazon, a weak festival turnout sends a clear message. The audience is no longer showing up just because of the Sussex name, and that raises an uncomfortable question. Why this project? Why invest limited momentum into a documentary that feels small in scope when their original promise was global impact? Insiders say the film doubles as a personal narrative vehicle for Meghan. She has reportedly framed her childhood time in the Girl Guides as the origin of her entrepreneurial spirit, pointing to cookie sales as the foundation of her business mindset. That idea sits at the heart of the documentary, but to critics, it feels stretched. Turning a childhood activity into a symbolic business empire does not resonate as empowerment. It reads as desperation. Hollywood observers have begun using a phrase that is sticking: serial clout chasers. The perception is that the Sussexes are attaching their names to any available project in hopes something reignites their relevance. Cookie Queens didn't ignite anything. It flickered and faded. This is why the Sundance moment matters. They traded state banquets for snack sales. They traded palace balconies for folding chairs in an indie theater. Without the royal family providing the platform, this appears to be the ceiling of their influence. Strip away the titles, and the projects struggle to stand on their own. The failure at Sundance suggests the Sussex mystique hasn't just faded, it has fractured. And that fracture cuts deeper when you remember exactly what they walked away from. To understand the scale of this professional humiliation, you have to rewind. Before the exit, before the lawsuits, before the streaming deals. The late Queen Elizabeth II offered Harry and Meghan an extraordinary alternative path. Not exile, not punishment. A role of enormous dignity and global importance within the Commonwealth. They were offered the chance to base themselves in Canada, Australia, or another Commonwealth nation and serve as the face of the monarchy to over 2 billion people. It was influence without tabloid chaos, power without Hollywood desperation, purpose with institutional backing. In that role, Harry and Meghan could have led global initiatives on youth leadership, climate action, education, and humanitarian causes with the full support of the British government and the Royal Treasury. They would not be worrying about ticket sales. They would be shaping policy conversations. Instead, they said no. They turned down a position that could have cemented their legacy for generations and chose a Hollywood path that has steadily narrowed rather than expanded. Today, Meghan reportedly cites Girl Guide cookie sales as the cornerstone of her entrepreneurial journey. That contrast is jarring, from representing the crown to selling nostalgia. Their company, Archewell, has struggled to generate consistent revenue, and Cookie Queens now appears to be part of an attempt to stabilize a faltering strategy. Royal commentators are calling it exactly what it looks like, a catastrophic error in judgment. They had charisma, access, global goodwill, and an unmatched platform, and yet they traded enduring legacy for fleeting celebrity. The Queen offered them influence that could have lasted centuries. They chose temporary visibility that is already fading. As reviews for Cookie Queens failed to materialize and palace silence remains absolute, the message grows louder. While the Sussexes slide down the ladder of relevance, another British family is demonstrating how to survive scrutiny without implosion. And to understand just how far Harry and Meghan have fallen, you don't even need to look at the royal family anymore. You only need to look at the Beckhams. He has gone as far as publicly accusing his own parents of attacking him and his wife, Nicola Peltz. Rumors have spilled into the open about inappropriate wedding behavior, unresolved resentments, and a deep fracture between mother and daughter-in-law. The situation is messy, emotional, and painfully public. But this is where the comparison becomes unavoidable, because the response from David and Victoria Beckham could not be more different from the Sussex playbook. Did the Beckhams sit down for a tearful tell-all interview? No. Did they release a documentary accusing their son of betrayal? No. Instead, they executed what insiders now refer to as the Beckham strategy: unity, discipline, optics, control. When the scandal broke, the family made their first joint public appearance together. David and Victoria stood side by side with their 3 younger children, Romeo, Cruz, and Harper. No accusations, no public airing of grievances. They showed up together to celebrate an achievement, not a wound. Victoria Beckham received a major honor, being named a Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters in France, a prestigious cultural recognition. Observers noted something important in that moment. Victoria did not look triumphant, she looked nervous, fragile, even frightened. Her smile was tight, her posture tense, but she walked out anyway. This is what the Beckham brand has always done best. They show up. They absorb the hit privately and present strength publicly. We saw this years ago during rumors of David's alleged infidelity. Victoria did not collapse into public victimhood. She did not monetize pain. She stood beside her husband and pushed forward. The message was clear then, and it is clear now. We endure. We work. We win. That is branding. That is discipline. That is power. Before going further, it's worth pausing for a moment. In times of upheaval, whether inside royal households, celebrity families, or our own lives, strength is not measured by noise, but by resilience. Wherever you are watching from today, I hope you and those close to you are safe, healthy, and finding some sense of peace. Feel free to share your city and country in the comments. It's always grounding to see how wide this conversation reaches. Now, back to the contrast, because it exposes exactly where Harry and Meghan went wrong. Victoria Beckham, visibly uncomfortable, stepped forward to accept an international honor for her work in fashion. Meghan Markle stepped into a half-empty theater to talk about selling cookies. One woman is being honored by the French Republic. The other is struggling to generate interest at a film festival. The difference is not talent, it is strategy. The Beckhams understand a fundamental rule of public life that the Sussexes appear to have forgotten. Success is the loudest response. When faced with family drama, the Beckhams elevate their status. They don't explain. They don't complain. They produce results. When faced with family drama, Harry and Meghan monetize it. They sell it. And when the market for grievance dries up, they are left scrambling for relevance with projects like Cookie Queens. This is not bad luck. This is the consequence of repeated miscalculation. Harry and Meghan once had the potential to be the ultimate power couple. Commonwealth leaders, global humanitarians, respected international figures. Instead, they are now increasingly viewed as serial clout chasers, attaching their names to whatever might generate attention. They traded dignity for noise, and now the noise no longer sells. The industry sees this shift clearly. While Victoria Beckham is dining with fashion power brokers and being honored by cultural institutions, Harry is watching audiences thin out. And that leads us to the most dangerous label now following the Sussex brand in Hollywood, a label that ends careers faster than scandals ever could. This is what insiders are calling the clout chaser label. In Hollywood, you can survive controversy, you can survive a failed project, But you cannot survive becoming a punchline. According to multiple reports coming out of Sundance, Harry and Meghan are now being quietly referred to as serial clout chasers, and that reputation is lethal. For years, they demanded privacy. Now they are appearing at film festivals to promote a documentary few people want to watch. The contradiction is impossible to ignore. You cannot flee the spotlight for mental health reasons and then chase it to sell a movie about cookies. Audiences see through it. The Sundance disappointment is not an isolated incident. It fits a clear pattern. From the collapse of their Spotify deal, where an executive famously labeled them grifters, to this latest cinematic stumble, the trajectory is unmistakable. They are trying to become media moguls without the discipline, consistency, or creative credibility to support that ambition. Cookie Queens failing to fill a theater is the clearest signal yet that their names alone no longer move audiences. Without royal drama, without attacks on William, Charles, or Catherine, there is very little left driving interest. In Hollywood, clout chasers occupy the lowest rung. They are the people who show up uninvited, who attach themselves to trends, who chase relevance instead of building it. Harry and Meghan were supposed to be far above that lane. They were meant to be leaders. Instead, they are drifting dangerously close to reality TV territory. Famous for being famous, not for creating value. Sundance is a festival built on serious storytelling, on grit, on authenticity, on artistic risk. Bringing a polished, commercial documentary about cookie sales into that space does not read as bold. It reads as desperate. The empty seats delivered the verdict the industry didn't need to say out loud. When you walk away from the monarchy, you walk away from automatic respect, from inherited credibility. You must earn attention on merit alone. And based on the reception to Cookie Queens, the merit simply isn't there. And when social capital disappears, financial pressure is never far behind. Because an empty theater doesn't just bruise your ego, it threatens your income. And in Montecito, where the lifestyle burns millions a year, that silence is terrifying. This brings us to the next chapter, financial panic in Montecito. And for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, living in one of the most expensive zip codes in the United States, a half-empty theater is not just an artistic disappointment. It is a financial alarm bell echoing in the distance. This is where symbolism turns into hard math. When Harry and Meghan walked away from royal life, they didn't just step back from duty, they stepped away from the most stable financial safety net on the planet. They exchanged the certainty of the sovereign grant, backed by the British state, for the unforgiving volatility of the open market. No guarantees, no lifelong protection, no automatic relevance. Their post-royal strategy rested on one bold assumption. We are so famous, we can sell anything. Documentaries, podcasts, memoirs, speaking tours, brand deals. But the failure of Cookie Queens sends a very different message. Fame alone no longer converts into demand. If they cannot sell out a small Sundance screening for a documentary about Girl Scouts, how do they convince Netflix to renew a multi-million-dollar deal when contracts come up for review? How do they persuade publishers to offer another 8-figure advance after the first memoir scorched family ties and exhausted public sympathy? The economics of their lifestyle are brutal. Royal analysts estimate that maintaining the Montecito estate is a constant drain. A $14 million property brings massive property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and staffing costs. Add private flights, relentless legal battles, and a full-scale PR operation working around the clock to contain reputational damage. But the largest expense is the one Harry never had to think about before: security. Without publicly funded protection, private security becomes a recurring, multi-million-dollar annual bill. In the UK, protection was automatic. In California, it's a monthly invoice. This is where anxiety creeps in. When you are A-list, deals arrive to cover these costs. When your brand weakens and projects underperform, calls slow down. We already saw the first crack when Spotify ended their partnership, with an executive publicly labeling them grifters. Now, with Cookie Queens struggling to generate even basic interest, the industry is quietly asking a dangerous question. Are the Sussexes a bad investment? If income dries up, how long can the illusion of American royalty be sustained? Financial pressure creates a vicious cycle. Declining relevance leads to desperation. Desperation leads to poor decisions. If serious, uplifting projects don't land, what inventory remains? The uncomfortable truth is that the only product that ever reliably sold was conflict, family grievances, royal wounds, trauma narratives. But even that resource is limited. You can only retell the same story about betrayal, pain, and victimhood so many times before the audience disengages. And increasingly, it appears that moment has arrived. The irony is striking. At Frogmore Cottage, the rent was manageable, security was provided, and status was unquestioned. Financial peace existed, but they claimed emotional distress. In Montecito, they gained freedom, but lost stability. They are learning the lesson few acknowledge. Freedom is expensive, and independence comes without a safety net. As financial stress grows, pressure inside the partnership inevitably rises. For a couple who built their new identity on billion-dollar branding ambitions, the reality of empty theaters and stalled deals is a bitter reckoning. So where does this road lead? One direction points toward humility, acknowledging missteps, lowering visibility, and possibly rebuilding bridges quietly. The other direction leads to more noise, louder stunts, and increasingly desperate attempts to reclaim attention. Based on the pattern so far, from the Cookie documentary to public confrontations, we already know which path they are most likely to take. As the curtain closes on the Sundance debacle, what we are witnessing is more than a failed premiere. It is a cautionary tale about ambition without grounding, freedom without foresight, and the seductive lie that the grass is always greener. Harry and Meghan once stood on a platform that world leaders envy. In chasing more money, more control, more fame, they ended up with less. Less respect, less influence, and less peace. The tragedy is not that they left royal life. It is that they never fully understood what they were leaving for. They traded legacy for novelty, endurance for immediacy, a lifetime of purpose for a series of sales pitches. It is a reminder worth remembering. Dignity outlasts noise. True power does not need to shout. It does not need to sell cookies to prove its worth. Real influence is quiet, consistent, and built over time, much like the legacy they walked away from. Now the question belongs to you. Do you think Harry and Meghan can recover from this fall from grace? Or is the American chapter effectively over? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you think reconciliation and humility are the only way forward, say so. If you believe they've chosen their path and must live with it, say that too. If you found this breakdown revealing, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. You've been watching Legacy's Edge, where legacy isn't inherited, it's earned.